You're listening to the Stokes podcast, real and inspiring conversations with individuals from all over the world, sharing their insights on sustainability, fashion, conscious consumerism and empowerment. Be inspired to take action and be the change you want to see in the world. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Stokes podcast. Today on the show, I'm very lucky to have Daisy Harvey with me. Daisy is the founder of Loom, which is an upcycling app which connects you with designers to upcycle your clothes. So Daisy, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited to chat to you and learn more about Loom.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Really looking forward to it.
Amazing. So Daisy, can you share with us about Loom? Like, where did the inspiration come to start Loom?
Yeah, of course. It's kind of been a bit of a journey. To give you like a little whistle stop tour, I've always worked in fashion. And I used to work at like fast fashion company, and it got to a point where I was just really fell out of love with it a little bit. I really loved working in the industry. I knew that I wanted to stay in it if I could, but as I started to learn more about how harmful it can be, both on the environment but also the people within the supply chain, I about 5 years ago made the decision that I wanted to make sure whatever work I was doing was trying at least to have a positive impact. I was actually on a work trip, the moment that stands out, and there was a school protesting climate change, and they were handing out flyers which were saying, "What impact will you have on my future?" And at the time, I was like, "Not very good." So that was quite a wake-up call. And so I quit my job and I launched a different business, which was a sustainable fashion marketplace called Lufter. And Loom is kind of an evolution of that because we hosted a lot of pop-ups. It was a curated collection of sustainable brands. And I kept having the same conversation with people where they were saying, you know, I want to shop sustainably, but I can't find sustainable brands that are my style. It's too expensive. Or they were saying, I've got this wardrobe full of clothes that I never wear. Like, what do I do with those? And on the side, I started connecting them with designers that I knew to get them upcycled or redesigned. And then that's how the idea came. Yeah, so it's just how excited that they were that this was even an option. Made me think, oh, if you could make a platform that easily connected you with loads of designers to do that, it could have a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a fantastic idea. And how does Loom or how does Loom connect you with the designers?
Yeah, great question.
Does it work? Yeah.
So at the moment, how it works is you send us a photo of the item, and then you tell us if you have an idea of what you want to create, and then we'll match you with the perfect designer to bring your vision to life. Or if you don't know, we can give you loads of ideas as well. Right now, yeah, we'll kind of try to encourage anyone to kind of reach out, and we've got designers and amazing ideas that even if you don't know, we can give you suggestions. It's a little bit manual at the moment, so we're kind of connecting you with our designers on WhatsApp or by email. But we have our app launching in February 2025. So that will automate it. You can view all of the designers' profiles on the app and reach out to them directly. So that's super exciting.
Amazing. So it will just become more seamless.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And what ways do you think that Loom is going to transform the way we shop?
Actually, yeah, it's really interesting. I think, well, me anyway, and a lot of my friends, and like when I speak to them, when we go shopping, we kind of are so used to just having such a huge array of clothes to choose from. But any idea, like who made it, then produced in huge volumes, you just go in, you can pay next to nothing for something, and then you've got it, and you kind of get caught up in this kind of whirlwind of always needing to buy more, more, more. So I think what Loom does is it kind of reestablishes that personal connection that you have with your clothes.
Right.
So you're working one-on-one with the designer, so you get to meet them, you know exactly what they're doing, and you get something completely unique and that's tailored to your measurements.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a completely different way of shopping, but I think it's that personalization and, like, also getting to know the person behind your new item, which makes it quite different to how we're used to shopping at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. The traditional retail model of going into store and just being overwhelmed by so much stuff and more often than not, buying things that we maybe have similar in our wardrobe or that we don't really need. And kinda like that sugar hit, isn't it? You kind of get overwhelmed and then you end up buying stuff and then you go home, you're like, "Why did I buy that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I think as well, I've been seeing a lot more personalization and customization within the industry, even more by luxury. I feel like that piece was kind of reaching out to have items, more unique, more tailored to our style. Often we don't want to get rid of pieces, or maybe your grandmother gave you something and you want to create it into something else. Um, so yeah, I think it's quite interesting how our mindset is shifting. Will you see that happening? The minds of consumers.
Definitely, and it's good to hear you say that as well, because sometimes I'm worried I'm in my little echo chamber. Or like, so but the people just looking for something more unique, there's with, like, trends, you always worried wondering if that someone's gonna be wearing the same dress as you or something like that, like, it's kind of like a real thing that you're like, "Oh, I kind of wanna be my own person now." I feel like people are moving away from trends more and kind of it's becoming, cooler, if you want the right word, to, like, have your own style rather than, like, following trends, which is great. That really encourages people to start, I think that's why we've seen such a huge, surge in popularity for, like, clothing. But when you mentioned about, like, upcycling, like, your grandmother's piece, we've actually had so many lovely stories of people coming to us. So someone came to us with their dad's ties, and then we turned that into a handbag that they could wear all the time. So and we have loads of brides come with their wedding dresses, like, dye it a different color or turn it into something completely different. And those kind of pieces have, like, a story to them that then continues. So it's really lovely to kinda share those projects with everyone.
Yeah, because it comes like this sentimental item has this value and emotional attachment, doesn't it? But often I feel like we're really disconnected from our clothes.
Mm.
No, well, I don't want to say no one, but mm, a lot of people aren't considering who did those, where they came from. Like I said before, they just walk into a traditional retail store, purchase things without even really seeing anticipation, anything about them. And I always kind of compare it a bit to the food industry. People have become so much more aware and like conscious about what they're putting in their body,
Yeah.
nutrition wise. But fashion still has a way to go. And I think the fact that these items or these designers are helping people to create something very unique and also sentimental. Um, I think that way we will value clothes in a different way rather than just purchasing things, wearing them a couple of times, and then not really bothering or even caring about them. And that's what I'm not saying that luxury items are more sustainable, but I do think that when you spend more and you go for higher quality, you're more likely to look after it more because of that value attached to it, monetary value, obviously, but also I think when you buy something luxury, it's kind of like you feel it's better quality and like there's this natural instinct to look after it better.
Yeah, definitely. I think the idea, behind value that our clothes hold is changing because previously, you could kind of throw clothes away and you wouldn't really think anything of it, or you donate it to charity. And now it's becoming, I think, more and more known that actually, I think it's something crazy. Like they can only sell 10% of the clothes that they receive, charity shops that are donated.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, the fact vary, but that one that I heard recently. So it's a huge percentage.
and do you know why that is? Is that because often it's damaged or not in a decent condition, but people just kind of use it as a kind of throwaway bin?
Yeah, I think so, and if you think about the clothes that you're taking to a charity shop, it's because you don't want them, right? So, um, and I think I've even been guilty of being like, "Oh, I don't know if anyone would buy this, but I don't wanna throw it away, so I'm gonna give it to a charity shop."
Right.
Just approach. So I think a lot of it ends up being sent to recyclers, um, and solutions like that, which actually, unfortunately, also come with their own problems. We actually went on a trip to Ghana recently, to go and see the landfill, textile waste landfills out there, and Cantamanto Market, which is an amazing market, and they buy the bales from recyclers. And the quality of the clothing that's in there is just getting worse and worse and worse. They're buying this stock and then they can't use it, and then that's why the landfills are getting out. So to go back to where we were at the beginning, if we can use our clothes at purpose, more upcycle them or, share and rent them here rather than making it someone else's kind of somebody to deal with, then it just makes the whole thing much more circular and more of this easy solution.
Also, it's enjoyable experience, like,
Yeah.
yeah, as well, it's like, "Okay, I'm not gonna buy anything new," which is great. Breaking something, you know, out of, the ties or whatever you have. And then there's the personalization in it. So that's kind of like you're also kind of replicating buying personal, authentic style, aren't you? Because if obviously some people find that quite difficult. Um, I used to do a lot of styling before, and I noticed that people say, "I have no idea about this," and a lot of people found it quite difficult to kind of connect with what is my personal style because we are bombarded with trends and what we should be wearing and what we shouldn't and what was in and what was out, right? So I think this is a really nice way of like cultivating that personal style and that authenticity. I'm guessing like with the designer, they kind of lead you through a process as well as they create this item that, that someone's
Yeah, exactly. And normally what we do is we gather reference images of things that you like, so we can kind of understand your style and then tailor the end design to what you'll actually wear. Um, but yeah, I think that the experience of it is so important as well because I know we touched on like you get this personal relationship with the designer, but at the end of the process, you have something that is completely tailored to you. So it's completely unique, and I think that's quite a thrill, and it's quite exciting. Oh, no one's going to have anything like this. Um, and it can be expensive to like shop sustainably, but even like upcycling, it starts at around £50, depending on what you're getting done. Um, so yeah, it's I think the experience of then curating a wardrobe that is completely unique is quite special.
yeah, absolutely. Do you hear are they like like consumers saying how expensive sustainable fashion is?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those topics which, if I'm on a panel talk or even going to a panel talk and listening about sustainable fashion, the topic of price always comes up. So with you, I'm sure you find it the same because I think there's always conversations about how do you make sustainable fashion accessible. And when we're so used to being able to buy clothes like fast fashion, even a few pounds, it does make it really, really tricky. Um, and I mean, with us, one of the reasons why I was quite passionate about Loom is like supporting the designers that we work with as well. And so they set their fee and our commissions added on top. So they're always getting paid what they want and deserve paid. But yeah, we still have customers that are like, "Oh, that's too expensive."
Yeah.
I think a common thing is that they're like, "Oh, well, I'm giving you an item of my clothing, so why would it cost, however much to get it redesigned?" And it's like, well, you are, but then you're almost buying something new. You're getting something completely new, and the cost of like raw materials that aren't what make up the majority of the cost when you buy something in a store. So it's tricky.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also like what you said about when you can buy something so cheaply, and I think we've got so used to that and that kind of whole throwaway culture of like, can buy a t-shirt for like 7, £8. Oh, it just if it gets a hole in it, I'll just throw it away next year. It's kind of like we live in that kind of culture, unfortunately. So it's kind of like, okay, how do we shift people out of that mindset? Because it's not sustainable in it, and it's not ethical that a t-shirt would cost 5, 6, 7, £8.
Yeah.
But I guess we think it's okay because that's what they're selling um to us. So it's kind of like shifting from that mindset of like, how much does an item of clothing really cost? Because yeah, like I said, the €5, £5 t-shirt is, someone's suffering or
Mhm.
something suffering along the way. Um, so I guess it's really about, becoming more aware of what sustainability means as well, and in the times that we're living. Um, and I think the whole thing of less is more. And that's kind of like the beauty of upcycling as well. It's like, if I have this item, I might not particularly like it for, or it doesn't fit me like it did before, and I want to change it into something else. So it's kind of like you're creating a new wardrobe within the wardrobe that you've got. Um, and I think I mean, how do you see us, shifting the awareness? I know it's happening, but how do you feel we can shift this mindset of that expense? You're so used to this, cheap.
Yeah, I think um, something I've found since really going with my like sustainability journey, we're in our kind of like sustainability echo chamber, I guess. And sometimes brands and they put so much energy into creating these beautiful pieces and they put all of this effort into going to visit the manufacturer and choosing the right fabrics and um you really want to shout about that, and I think the sustainability world and audience love that. But I think when you really push sustainability, if you're not in our world, it can feel a bit preachy.
Yeah.
Think the way that we kind of capture the majority of people is to make sustainable solutions really easy, really fun, to make them really desirable and kind of to sell. At the end of the day, most of us buy things because we love the style and we feel good in it. And I think that won't change. So
I think need to, does it? That's okay.
yeah. Yeah. And so I think one way that we can shift mindsets is just by making those solutions like the desirable one for everyone. So people don't feel like they have to do it, but they actually want to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, fashion is like emotions and desire, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
to want to, like, or have this desire to. Hmm. So launching an app, um, Daisy, I know it's an ambitious goal.
Mm,
What challenges have you, come across along the journey?
my God, so many. Mm, I think, oh gosh. So far, there's been challenges like with I'm a solo founder, and it's only me who works full time on Loom. So I think there's the challenge of like, I'm always motivated, but mentally just being positive, and just keeping going, even if like, you have like a big setback. Takes, I think, a lot of resilience to be like, okay, that happened. I meant to cope with it, but then I'm gonna get back on it. So I think that's definitely can be tough. Um, and we're lucky enough to win an Innovate UK to help it launching the app, but then had to raise additional funds at the beginning of the year. So that was a big challenge. Never done anything like that before. Um, I think there's always a new challenge, which is great. I feel like I'm growing up the side. Sometimes I'm exhausted.
Absolutely, and being a solo. entrepreneur as well, even though you have people working with you or whatever, it's hard, isn't it, to keep, especially when like you're throwing stones. Like, it's hard to kind of keep inspired and motivate. It's like discipline. At the end of the day, it's all about discipline, isn't it? You can have days when you're like, "Oh, is this really worth it, or am I doing?" And I think it's the discipline that keeps you going. Yeah,
And trying to enjoy the journey as well is something that I keep trying to remind myself because, like, you always have a goal, and then when you reach it, you're like, "Oh, then to the next one." And then you're just stressed the whole time. So, I mean, I wish I could listen to myself, but I'm trying to take things like that. I take moments to enjoy it and make sure that, I don't know, even small things like if I've got a horrible task to do, that I go and do it in a nice coffee shop or something like that, so that I'm like,
so true though, because the environment you're in makes such a difference. And if we can make those more tedious tasks that we're not keen on, or even that challenge us, we can make them, like, we can create a way to do them that makes us feel different, then
yeah,
way better. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So how do you see the intersection of fashion and technology heading?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. Um, there's I mean, with AI coming into play as well, there's so many exciting things happening, that essentially I think just make our lives easier and make like solutions like Loom, we're using AI in our app so much more accessible for everyone, and also helping with things like keeping the price down for sustainable fashion and, um just to think of a few examples, so some of our designers are now starting to use AI to um, bring their ideas to life for the customer, but really, really quickly. So normally, like they might sketch something, but maybe they want to get across like the actual texture of the fabric, or and now there's like AI tools that can do that. There's like tools now which like take your measurements from a photo. But even with like rental apps, and like yeah, upcycling, there's so many ways that we can use tech to make fashion more accessible, I think, and easier. Um, and particularly for sustainable solutions, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
'Cause I mean, fast fashion, you don't really need anything. It's kind of like a huge beast in itself, but what I think tech can do is help our kind of more, sustainable and circular solutions a lot easier as well and kind of get them out to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it's great the designers are using AI, isn't it, to bring like ideas more to life. Because like it's true when you see a sketch, some people will, get it. Be like,
Yes.
yeah. Whereas others need other kind of stimulus to understand certain concepts, or like you said, texture and things like that. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly, and I think if you don't have a design background, sometimes some of the terms that they're using, you might be like, "I don't really know what that means." So having, like, a visual is so helpful.
Yeah, amazing. And do you do events? You're in London, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. So we're based in London and yeah, we regularly host events. So we host a lot of workshops and pop-ups. So we've got a pop-up with the Circle open in Marylebone until Christmas. So we're hosting a workshop every week. Yeah, that's exciting. And then we also host a lot of panel talks as well, on circular fashion, mainly. But yeah, we it's great to host events because a lot of the work that we do is actually, well, for me anyway, is digital. So to get to meet people in person is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing. So my last question to you is, Daisy, how would you like to see the future of fashion? How do you see it evolving? I mean, obviously there's like this kind of more personal vision of yours. Maybe talk a bit about your personal vision.
Yeah, sure. Um, I mean, my personal vision uh, is obviously quite centered around Loom. What we're starting to do at the moment is really focus on working with brands to take their like, unsold or damaged stock and upcycle that on a much larger scale. Uh, so we've got a big collaboration which will be revealed soon, which is exciting. So we're looking to do that more. But I think in general terms for the future of fashion, um, I think that collaboration piece is so key, and in particular between like big brands and smaller companies. Because the smaller companies, like we were talking about tech, are coming out with all these amazing ideas and solutions, but we can't grow unless we have um, collaborations with bigger brands who can help support us with pilots and funding and just awareness. So for me, I think, yeah, I'm hopeful that more and more brands are gonna start supporting these, like, sustainable solutions so that they can grow at the speed we need them to
Yeah.
have an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you see Loom shifting consumer behavior? Like,
Yeah, well, I think it's just making upcycling a mainstream solution. So, when you're looking at the clothes in your wardrobe and you're like, "What am I gonna do with these?" That you think, "Actually, I could just change them." Even if it's, like, simple dyeing it a different color, getting it altered just so it fits you better because you don't wear it because there's something not quite right, or turning it into something completely new. I think for a lot of people, if you were to ask them, they might not even know what upcycling is. So my vision with Loom is to make it, everyone knows what upcycling is, and yeah, it's something everyone wants to do.
yeah, do you think some people, so now I'm asking you more questions, are kind of afraid of upcycling?
Um, I don't know if they're afraid of it, but I find, and actually we use the word redesign a lot rather than upcycling because people have connotations with upcycling, kind of like how they maybe used to or still do about the word sustainable. They might think, oh, that's not for me, like that's not my style, or I'm not a sustainable person. Um, and I think it's the same with upcycling. Whereas if when we use the word redesign, they're like, oh, I can just change it. And like, it's obviously going to be my style. So yeah, I think that's sometimes an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the terminology that we use as well, because often people think that sustainable clothing is like bland and boring, like just made out of hemp, and
Yeah.
that don't believe that, or they don't know rather that there's way more to it all. Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Daisy. It's been a wonderful conversation. Would you tell our listeners where they can find you and more information about Loom?
Yeah, of course. So our website is www.loom.fashion, and on all socials we're at the Loom app. And yeah, that you can find all of our contact details there.
Amazing. I'll put all that in the show notes anyway, so that it's easy for people to find you. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing getting to know you and Loom a bit more.
Oh, thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
You're welcome. Ciao.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please subscribe to the Lou Stokes podcast. Rate and review in the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in from. I'd be so grateful. Also, check out the show notes to learn more about my guests and learn more about me on my website, www.loustokes.com. Until next time, be inspired, take action, and be the change you want to see in the world.